We'll say the prayer on page number 10. On page number 10, we'll say the prayers, each verse 2 times, all the way to page number 13 in Tibetan. And afterward, we'll say in English, we'll say each verse 1 time, and I will let you remember of the English versions. in English on page number 11. I take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the way you created this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and prosperity. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and cost. May all sentient beings never separate from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings combine with equanimity, the highest attachment and this ground formed with strength of flower, encircled by the four continents, surrounded by the sun and moon. I visualize this Buddha figure over. May all living beings enjoy the pure and be known
모른데. 야, 내 참말로 쇼를 잠들실 수 있지. 가지고 봐.
이거 봐. 고민. Yeah, that's good.
Good.
No good.
Yeah. Good morning, and thank you for coming and joining me in this morning's Dharma discussion.
아니 다 맡은 지로마금 야인스. 지로마금 다른 노인스.
We're going to continue our practice of Aryan Tara mantra recitation and then meditation.
아니 저땅에 이제 로미크즈인데 나자고 되게 저런 곰야가 먹팅그쪽으로 로미크즈자나 지로마들이 지로마센데 토마미 빠네 알아서 직발이 빠질라 아니 그런 걸 배쳐서 비장진에 담아니 심지 담지기도 범메기 때 동원벌 쪽으로 성기네 아니 심지 담지 전투식이 있는 선이 담자어지는 원벌 쪽으로 성기 되는 지기 맞 당부해 봤지.
So before we meditate on Aryan Tara, I would like to remind you all, and so I have, as you can see, and I have the statue of Aryan Tara right in front of me. And the reason I put it here is for the convenience of all you there, and to take a look at this sacred object, a statue. And because you're going to use the Aryan Tara as a statue as the object of your meditative concentration or your meditation. So prior to the actual meditation, but I'd like to reflect upon or think of this. Aryan Tara right now is an enlightened being, but when you think about how she become the enlightened Buddha, an enlightened one, and an awakened one Buddha, and so you should remember, and long time ago, or and even don't know at what point of the time, but the point is, she was at one point, and Aryan Tara in prior to her own enlightenment, attainment of enlightenment, she was individual like you and me, but because she driven by the great compassion, she took the oath, and she determined to become an awakened one, and for the benefits of all sentient beings. So therefore, and she attained enlightenment. So this means that we can take an Aryan Tara as our mentor, and we have reason to do so.
어떤 잠바진이 되는 아랑도 소소랑니께나 진로미 특지 신기라팔라 때네 아니 디가 제선당네 공글라 종리 연든 탐주 소소gel라 종타월 소치 제molom 잡지 찌등 아랑도라 아니 샤민양지 상지 샘라 소비 사윈등 아랑도 요래 사원도 요르다 단당 아주 마릭 병 갑당네 사원도 뭔도 저트고요 말때 자다 진로미 베나 사원지 요 사가 땅나 사원지 요나 사원텔라 님이 어떤 조땅 지 코프즈 소베 이게 푸즈 소바 정조랑 진 기야 나저니 아랑도 길라 샴냥지 상지 심지 사원요 바 상지 사원요 바때 아니 진로미 특지신 럽라 챘네 그럼비야 컴페트 손에서 셈야르기 땅타와 덴데 무게 지진은 아주 다리 좀 검자고 그랬어 무길 들이지
And so we all got to remember that to reflect upon or to be very mindful about those sacred qualities and what the background information of Aryantara. And so that then we have the reason to place our heart on and develop a deep faith in her. So this way we can get the what we technically call the blessing, and meaning we can get we will be connected to enlighten the qualities and attributes and her power for compassion and wisdom and so on and so forth. So and see this kind of spiritual incredible qualities, and then we need to make a prayer and wish that may we all and may you as the individual and sooner and become Aryantara yourself, and then for the benefit of all sentient beings. So you need to make this kind of prayer and then determined and to do what you have wished for. So another in addition to what we have said, another point I would like to make is from a Buddhist philosophical point of view is that we all can become an Aryantara and ourselves or transform ourselves into the Aryantara and Buddha enlightened one is because we do have the seeds within ourselves. The enlightened seed is within ourselves. But unfortunately, right now, it's been covered well by the ignorance of Nvidia. So due to the ignorance, and we don't have this kind of a direct access, and we can't access directly to those qualities ourselves. But nevertheless, as we know that. And once we have things which is like a seed, we do have it, then we do have a great hope. Just like in the world case that you have the seeds, and then you put the seeds in a proper rich soil, and then you let the sunlight and receive a proper amount of sunlight and let it expose to the sunlight and give them a proper amount of water and also the fertility and so fertilization, I mean, and then other supportive supply all the supportive conditions. In this case, is so we have this enlightened seeds. The sunlight and as can be resembled like loving, kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and all those wonderful qualities. So we can let by grow. That's it. Sort of progressing and improve it and enhance those qualities, and then we will make our the attainment of Aryantarahood in not possible but faster and this way, and we know that we're not here simply just say the prayers, but we do have all the necessary conditions and supporters and which will enable us to achieve our goal.
네, 아니 결정했나. 다 진로미 특지 걸려 다리 동주 다리 한것도 촌이 어저 촌이 용서 소소랑이 끌리라ትን 리기 나자지 샘기 능을지 랑니는 고 점내는 로아 섬지 타 진zam랑디가 강아 옆에 던지기 리기 나자 샘기 능을 사송 섬 던지네 다리 돈나 소소런 게 다리 돈 받 니와드 지동 지존로미 다리 남게 강화 캬비도 텔라 소소고 다리 돈 받대 텔라 샨도로진 망치네 엔담노용 동되게 지존로미 쳇동 니와 참네 에너지 차장들이 자시와 동로로바 중 송섬에 땅을 돈돈이 치다다 다리 돈 공자이지.
So again, as you recall that while you are on the course of setting out and running over the course of the processing the Aryatara meditation and yourself, so you know that you wouldn't visualize that to see the light ray, the ray of the light and the rays of the light from the Aryatara's sacred body, and then you needed to feel it and visualize that, and then think that light from our sacred body of Aryatara by the touching instantly, and will remove and touching your own body and speech and the mind instantly. It will remove you and all sentient beings and across the entire universe or the entire space, and to free the sentient beings who are experiencing or enduring the sufferings with their own body, or with mentally and experience the pain or any form of pain. So, and you visualize that so that the instant touching or the moment of rich experience of the sacred lights is the power, actual power of the Aryatara's healing and the power of her healing power and the compassionate powers.
Oh yeah,
And in this way, through this way, only yourself, whatever the discomfort you experience with your body, but all sentient beings also instantly is been purified, and whereby is freed from the disease and the mental pain.
가마치 가스 그런 거 다리 돈이 뛰는데 다 샘도 맞을라 지단데 시주도 맞을라 샘도 그냥 문제 상도 좀 많다고 등이래 하시겠지.
So we're going to take around this process of meditation for about 10 more minutes. Meanwhile, it is my humble hope that please do recall or try to remember, be mindful what we have taught, and then stay and then with those instructional ideas, and then meditate accordingly.
The mantra is on page number 74.
Da re de re so. Da re de re so. Da re de re 오야 로다 가정들이마 저 로고라 다드시다 에 소파다들이 데스 홍고용 포토그라피자 단남바주레 데스 칼리 호잉길 당게레데 좀 진짜 시험을 칼리 하워스다 이나다 니마 로도 로다는 도동 엄마들 가랑 다지 시야데 정도 레시지 너무 좋대 서우지 라튼 탐나 성교
Okay, let's go to our text. Before we discuss continue our discussion based on the text, and I must admit and confess that the subject matter that we're dealing now regarding the object of negation or subtleties of the ultimate reality is rather complicated, right? And it's not an easy task at all. So, and therefore, we must approach and try to master the subject matter with a great deal of patience and perseverance. At my part, and I will continue to read and then explain or remarks on the whatever the important points that I think that I'm comfortable to comment on or share my interpretations. So my focus is again in the way to explain this. This is a profound subject matter is that to try my best to explain about the four seals of Buddhism and to see how all the different schools of Buddhism interpreted those four seals, and particularly with respect to the profoundness of the self, empty of the self-existence or the emptiness.
당오 님의 머와라 다른 일이 다른게 발 남네 다음에 시위 돔 기돈 다음에 니슨 자바당 간석기 다음에 덕기 다음에 칠 아마니던 다상 치기 다음에는 똑임 바라왈리 로르기 트지 트와마 기위응기 시와남 오랑슨 나이트 셰퍼송위 똑비신 라 만트와당 도메 나일라 만트위 왕기 제비랑 랑진 남 랑친 제기지위 공금 겐치 소기 치기 땅데 메기아 고기 다나 노메기 로라 낭위 왕기 잡바 마임비 돈기 돌기 테스 데터 카피 돈 치기 다메든 자도스 폴하로 왕가시 다메 시위 메기 더 타르트 쇼비르시기 쇼 조튼 자장 데땅 타르트 쇼비르시기 드바 띵오 드브스땅 데 제샤남 돈식든 자니 타르트 쇼비르시기 제샤 요나 데 독술 요기위 데 요나 덴버 요브르 종니 가시 타르트 쇼비르시기 일메버 머샹 데 요나 사와 사비 그르서 로브르 저테 데터 tertar te yona te rikshi ki shozul yogi wi te yona dembar yogi or shed serosi sersi ngashi tuntam demba dendrib yinki rikshi ki shozul yimbi shirsi te jasha yimbi shir shi marwosi ngashi tundun demba jasha minla tundambi demba la kurwa tapar kirki rikshi tsami jasha shina tsawi dak tsawi gaksha lopar kirwi nyant samni rikshi ki dokpa nam jat mepi jepak yilni nangwar jepak ngorni nangpong tsukpa jel shir jokpa kondab ki tha rondot marwa o stabar tsana.
Okay, please go to your copy, translation copy, page 112. I'm going to read from the third paragraph. Actually, third paragraph, yeah. For the inherent validator, the self starting the self of the self is non-existence referred to the two selflessness. Their approach to the selflessness of the person is the same as the preceding two schools, the mind-only school and the two parallel traditions. The particularist and the sutra followers. With regard to the selflessness of phenomena, since it is stated in the Plays of Reasoning by Baba Viveka, the inherence validator schools of founder, that as all sensory consciousness which not being produced by fleeting or temporary cause of deception, take as their appearing object things which exist due to their own characteristics, that assert inherent existence or existence due to its own characteristics posted by the force of non-conceptual thought, which is unmistaken with respect to its appearing object, and conceptual thoughts are mistaken with regard to their referent objects. Because of this, the self to be negated, or in other words, that which does not exist, is all phenomena, such as the aggregates, elements, sources, and so forth, is that ultimate mode of existence which is not designated through the force of its appearance to an unmistaken consciousness. Consequently, negation of this is asserted to be the selflessness of phenomena. Some earlier Tibetan masters asserted that the non-existence self referred to in the Buddha's self, all phenomena are selfless, can bear analysis by an analytical awareness, examine the ultimate mode of being, which means the sense as to say that it is established by that analytical awareness that it holds its own in the face of that analytical awareness and that it is the object of apprehension of that analytical awareness. If something is the object of apprehension of an analytical awareness, examine the ultimate, it must necessarily be able to bear analysis. If that were so, they assumed it would have to be truly existent. Therefore, some said that it is not an object of an awareness analyzing the ultimate, because if it were, there would be no basic object of negation. Thus, if it were an object of analytical awareness examining the ultimate, it would have to bear analysis. And if so, they say it would have to be truly existent.
Oh yeah. 다 상지 좀 된데가 동보야 상지네 치토마틱 공고 가르송즈나 사스트스 오선도 마치 더서치 코이니 살라탐짱 고르만니비 만만 넘긴도 never show. 어.
먼저 최근 네바도 소가 미들은 스카카시 노르제선스.
그래.
도나르와 점박이. Sorry, I forgot to read it one more paragraph. A number of Tibetan masters say that ultimate reality is truly existent because it is found by awareness analyzes the ultimate. Since it is the object of that awareness, some say that if ultimate truth were not an object of awareness, it would be tantamount to understanding ultimate truth, thinking that if it were to become an object of valid awareness, there would be no basic object of negation. They assert from the viewpoint of this awareness that although it has no perceivable object, from the perspective of inferential cognition, that assembly of appearance and vacuity can still be said to be a perceivable object. Therefore, they say the extreme of overestimation and underestimation are avoided. That is all.
Oh yeah. 근데 대자다 대자서야. 치지 넘지 송자 상지 좀 된데 시 넘지 송다 말아도 남바 상지 다접 그거니 있잖아. 단 늦지 탐지 맞다 봐. 서지 탐지 등알와. 시 탐지 동상 다음에 봐. 양알레디와 시와오 상지 송는다. 다 텔은 리시 같은다 배. 다좀 탐으로 참마 만자와 용을. 진짜 기동 상지 송자 킬링 거인자. 다 리시 같은 거니 좀 탐으로 다단디 넌 리시 같은 다다티 고탐 마 못니. 고시고 티나 아니 단 늦지 탐지 맞다 봐. 세던 알아도 소소런 그 릴라 삼로 동 알아도 다 근데 상지 송할 쓰니 다 뭐마 좀 탐하면 된 소파 체어 sama 많이 막 알아도 소소런 니까 lagalin chen o sanji ten song sa tak de chitam chima tak pa yin tang kan re so sam ta dang ni de share da am jo ko te samlu tang de gom chen ni ten re ma de ho tang ne jerwa tang ta ta go tin ta de chitam chima tak pa sa de rang li la gom ba na an lin de ni de jirwa ka chi tang bo ni pe phame khtang diwali chong ne chi cha tang long ta de jiwa tang o yang lo so ba tham chi ya yi ni nga mi se chobyong mi the chobyong zo tel tene ani li tel tene rimbe kachi lan jigni ani ngo chiri sone ya 타미 야 차로서나 지금 타티 야고 타 매바 로요 말더니 막 꿀로요. 근데 마로 심지준다 막 꿀리꿀리 마 강고 좀 양바로 전 타마데 홍어데 카트로 카트 송조 콤보데 르비 더팅고 데 파스니 단다가 아주 민디다 망참즈만도 하면 동바찬로 어 대인차네 디차라 삼로 동아에나 드치 탐지 마딱바지 마딱바인 통다 마딱바인 통다 기와요 바강실라 치와요 바등 이진 시기요 시고요 근데 기위 타망 아주 같이나 아주 같이나 푸주 속바 장정 용지메와데 등을 용지요 등을 뜻 같이나 등을이 인지메 데킹 원지기와 어떤 참아 히트와에나 직당 직등가 샤시 탐지 용도 송 잡을지 탑고 어때 판도시 용거 단 늦지 탐지만 더 썩지 탐지 등알와 썩지 탐지 등알와서 알아서 pombo도 다 썩지 열는지 pom보세고 썩지 열는지 pom보세 요모온 거 잡아 요모온 거 잡아 알아서 랑시오 말 같이는 나 저쪽 사 저쪽 아니 내 진짜 아니 알아서 만나는 삼고를 나용 거 아니 지금 접당 알아서 린디 돈다가 아니 인천 멜미 참이 깔리 잡고는 미 야차가 야 탐바다 미시라 미 고시글 미 잔둔다 깔리 잡고로마도 야나 야차가 급치 때 소소가 pom보드다 소아당 때 통화당 때 마장아 또바당 때그 때를 대기 용어치 하나라 점리 지기요 님츠멜라 지니 지가 띠돈도 이거다 띠돈도 접기요 말에 아 그때 하정 띠 쳇된 건데 대기 자기인데 유교 먹네니 영 등을 태워 나서 타와 마제 아니 바데 실리 타잡 때 여다마 오이어를 가서 나타 좀 부졌어 어떤 데가네 미성한테 이제 또 대기가 이거 이나 디키 용조데 디키 던도 정도 디키 만들어 등을 용거는 망부요. 대자 디속데 삼로지 당내 아니 당분이데 삼로 당내 때 임바 하거나 다티 용으로 간다 때 때니다 랑진기 만들었으니 다 동비던 셰어를 치탐지 동상 다음에 봐서 치는 동상 다음에 비던데 다 좀다 말아 창화나 좁아요. 다다때 잠바 뉴데 망치와 킬 큰거라. 어떤 아주 동배니 있고 좀다 말아 지금 노통로 수수지 정도지 what to jet against.
So as you recall that the essence of the sources of our discussion and the topic where we started our conversation is basically it comes from the four seals of Buddhism, and the four seals of Buddhism are all compounded phenomena. All compounded things are impermanence, and all contaminated phenomena are by nature unsatisfactory, and all phenomena, all compounded phenomena are empty of self-existence, and nirvana is peace, or nirvana is beyond the extremes, whichever the translation is. So here, what we need to do, how we can actually make a sense with these four seals of Buddhism, or apply it into our own and situations and conditions, then enhance our spiritual realization, and that's that should be our focus. So essentially, we know that when you read, right, or reflecting upon the four seals of Buddhism, like the first the seal, that is all compounded things are all compounded things are impermanence. Okay? So all compounded phenomena things are impermanent. We read, come across to read this line, and then pause, and then think how that relates to me. Right? What does it mean to me? Right? How I can make sense of it, right? Of this important the first seal, or the like a decisive sort of the remarks or the presentations of Buddhism. So look at the best way to look at this first seal. The all compounded things are impermanent. I think the best way is immediately take it that very concepts of compounded thing, right? And to the idea to your own physical body, and then look at your own physical body and ask yourself: is my physical body? My body is a compounded compounded thing, right? Obviously, our physical body is the compounded thing, a specific sort of the compounded thing. That is because, like we repeated talk at this point and over in the past. So your body, without the inquiry, it seems established and exists and by its own. However, we look at how it's coming to be, like the way you think, you feel, right? And you know that it started from the very moment, the physiologically, a moment of the union of the parents, the sperm and the egg. So with that as the base, and then all the physical body and whatever is involved, you can say organ, or you can say that the sense base, or whatever the physical parts of your physical elements. So it began to growing, right? And then so it's then become the body we consciously can describe or and can claim that's your body, right? See, this process of analysis tells us that our body is indeed a compounded phenomenon, a compounded thing. Because it is compounded, it's a kind of collection. It is the combination. So it's the sort of the collectively formed entity, right? And so, therefore, when you meditate on this way, analytically meditate the nature of your body, then you know that everything that you sort of claim you own or is yours, and or your own body indeed is the collection of or the combination of all kinds of physical parts. There's no really something substantially inherently it's being there over there and by itself often, right? So this growing process of our body, and we know that because it is the form, belongs to the form categorization form, or the compounded thing. So therefore, you know, it has on its limitation. Will keep growing, but to the point, and it cannot, it will stop growing or stop and sort of its own development. Why? Because anything, if that is compounded, is a combination of is a result of the combination involved with anything other than so-called itself, and then it will reach its own sort of the fully is of a growing point. And when the things such as our body reach its fullness of the growing point, then it will no longer and stays there, but rather now from next moment will start the progress of a decline. In other words, from the healthy, fresh, strong,
It's 11
and,
o'clock.
And a powerful, and then now it's become going to be decline. Start the process of decline. They get weaker and they become very problematic. Right? So then finally we know that and we have to say goodbye and to our body. Right? Why? Because again, this very body is since it is from its very beginning of its production, the process of its production itself revealed clearly the truth that it was combined by all kinds of elements and various forms of different aspects. So therefore, it's subject to decline, and it finally would to reach the point of the completion of decline, and then the death. And so, and now you can think about this. So because of its compounded thing, our body, so therefore is has to go through the process of the growing that we call the birth, right? And the process of birth itself involves so much unsatisfactory or dukkha, the pain, and then you have to experience it, and when we need to ill or experience the sickness, and then you have to involve with all kinds of undesirable pains. Then we call it happiness, or we call it sometimes pleasure, enjoyable. In fact, it's just a kind of a relatively as a kind of a moment of that's the ceasing point, a cessation of when that's a painful or stressful experience. It gets at the point of sort of stopped or ceasing, and then that created the kind of a gap so between the present moment of stress and until next arising of next, we will have a gap in between, and then so that the moment of free of the stress or pain, we call it happiness, or call it pleasure, which indeed, of course, is not. This brings the second point of the fourth seal. That means all contaminated phenomena are by nature unsatisfactory. So that tells why we experience all kinds of undesirable experiences. That is again because of our body. And take an example of our body. It is compounded and compiled and collected and gathered the thing. So therefore, just now we apply this to a deeper sort of the sense, right? Which is the body, how you sense it, right? Your sensual experience of with your body, the moments of the pleasure, and then next is again this sort of fade away, and then the other moments will begin the unsatisfactory. So it's flickering and of constant flux of this changing, and it proves that and our existence with through our own physical body and is indeed unsatisfactory. It is unsatisfactory because just like the second seal says, all compounded, all contaminated phenomena are by nature unsatisfactory. So, and that's again, if I apply this to your own experiences throughout the day, you will see it is indeed the case. It is true. And then, yes, so meanwhile, we know that we are looking for something without thinking this, ask this, without engaging in such a profound inquiry, which seems that everything seems normal and okay. We are all sort of justified, having some kind of justification to looking for pleasure, happiness all the time. I cannot say everyone out there, 100%, without exception, everyone is seeking for the pleasure for themselves. I cannot say it, but by large, maybe like 90% of the people out there, and some of them, of course, they are there, keep themselves so busy and so engaging and being engaged because what they wanted to do, they want to try to achieve is to something that they call happiness or pleasure. But there are individuals, of course, who keep engaging and themselves very busy and not for their own sensational pleasure, rather for the benefits of all others. But that's exception. And now here, just focus in the normal situation or in the normal cases, we know that we all try hard to get ourselves something happy and good and to be very pleased. So I sometimes laugh at myself, and I keep busy and run around and here the temple and in and out, in and so. And even one day, recently, just a couple of days ago, during the snow day, I was running and busy doing something. I fell over and fell down and on the ground. So I laughed at myself. When I was busy, why I fell off is because, and then I tell myself I'm busy, but the reason I'm busy, that's kind of questionable. So this is the probably reflects a whole lot of truth. And generally speaking, we are trying our very best and busy and engaging and keeping ourselves engaged. But we just forgot that the second seal of Buddhism, that is all contaminated phenomena are by nature unsatisfactory. So this is how you make a relationship, how you connect your own life and your own reality to the second seals of Buddhism. And then the third one is very controversial. Is the most subtle one and the most controversial and heatedly debated the seal. That is all phenomena are empty of self-existence. So all phenomena are empty of self-existence. So here, what is self, right? And what is how it is being emptied, right? And that is the really the central issue or the central philosophical debating point and among of all the Buddhist schools of philosophy. Okay, so what is the self and how you define self, right? And how to apprehend the emptiness and all this are although all the Buddhist schools, right, followers of Buddhist schools, and they do agree the four seals of Buddhism, like the emptiness and all phenomena are empty self-existence. If we ask any Buddhist school philosophers and followers of Buddhist school of philosophy, they all say, yes, I agree. And that's very statement. Why? Because it's taught by Buddha, right? But if you ask how you define, right, the empty of self existence, then you will hear and different schools and interpret this very point very differently. So anyway, and so that's what the I think this is the crucial point we all needed to work on and find out. So what does Buddha mean by the self and the no self?
근데 다 치담저 동상 다음에 봐서 dak saya adalah ane jokdangro sheng sudang ngarang samalo ne hanjiji dagdang rondok ji dag nyingor da hanjiji dag sada dagchi rangji dagdang kar rongja tabi ji dagzine ni jangor da da ngarang zu changme gila ne kiwa na ne mi gi ndashin ro chor nga set rangji ngarang zu ji la yodor da hanjiji dag sada 아니 다때 나세도 요르 요르 간다즈리 다때 심지지 잡아지 전에 타마타마데 나세도 요르 폼봉아 강라 마템비템비 랑선바지 요레 고 문지비 다바레 어 차메비 직보레세 딘디그 로덕 조저기 좀 타마와 용고 나 작득 된 자르도 아니 때 근딱비 나가세들 어딘자다 아니 다 심지기 지고한테 가르즈나 다 메세 메교때 가르즈나 다 근답이 다데 요 말에서 아니 다랑 자와 풍복강라 마팀비랑 자와 딱바임 바든데 참이 비직보든데 저 자네 니트고 요 말. 많이면 주던 넘버 성제 좀 뭐라 탐지 어따든데 딱 단다티 좀 타머리 로딱비 다데 mendu즈니 다 참이 킬링 거. 다티강라 아니 Shetang Maradon Dudiwan Yene, Rangchatapi Ziwiki Dazini, Tarangchatapi Tanda Kot Guntapi Danda, Lanchiki Datek, Lanchi Datera, Tapa Pombongala, Tapi Tatsumchi Matoni, Rangsimba, Korangini Tenjin Dejini, Rangchatapazim and the Tatum Marita said, Demonso Rangingitina, Niki or Mani Sato, and Tendiki Dachi, around Sambanans and 망고식 지가 세시시도 상에 지ங்கள라 맞대 맞지 공부도 리슨 나오고 이렇게 인사 한번 되는지 뭔데 글쎄 그저 좀더 참아 통화를 돼 그렇지
So let's go back to working on and the idea of all phenomena are empty of self-existence. In other words, is the profound philosophical the viewpoint regarding the ultimate reality. So self, when we think about the self here, we must self here doesn't mean it's not a synonym of the person and all the beings. But rather, self is a refer to the ultimate or something that's inherent in something that's autonomously was independently established entity. That is what we call the self. So, and then this self is the object of negation. But generally speaking, this idea of self is quite very broad in the very sort of complex. It's involved great complexity. Is because when you say self, there are two forms of self are there. Again, generally speaking, one is called the self with respect of the innate, right? How the individual innately perceiving or perceived or consider. So we can simply say innate self, innate sense of self. Another is imputed self. Imputed self and innate self. Those are the two broad two categories of self. Here, let's say, what is the imputed self? The imputed self is generally being promoted and advocated by the non-Buddhist school of philosophers or thoughts. They promote, okay? They promote, and there is a self, and they characterize the self being someone who is permanent and pleasurable, right? And independent and clean. So therefore, they believe there is their true individual as the entity or individual identity is marked by those four qualities or four endured such four features. Again, it's the ultimate self of person, or probably sometimes translated as soul, and then Buddhagara. So that is the individual or the true self is being permanent, clean, pleasurable, and independent. So no matter how strongly those non-Buddhist schools of philosophers are asserting and debate or arguing, from a Buddhist, all the Buddhist philosophers' point of view, and the version of that type of self, which is marked by the four unique qualities, is not a self. It is a self, but it's a form of self. Buddhist philosophers would call it imputed self, which is imputational. Okay? In other words, it's the mental projection, is a superimposed upon something which does not exist. Okay? So therefore, and Buddhism do not believe the eternal, independent, and clean, self-existent Atman or individuality. Now, we bring to the second version of the self that we call the innate self, or sort of natural, is natural to you, right? Like your basic sense of I, or as an individual person, right? And that individual person, I, it appears to you very kind of in a very natural, normal way. That self, and prior to exam, right, it kind of natural is sort of it is something that's just there without depend upon the five aggregates. Okay, the aggregates of form, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. It seems there. So therefore, this innate self, or the self which is naturally natural, looks like very natural to you. If you examine the very nature of that self, you will find it, which is which is something that's dependent upon. Right? Is it the production, or is it depend upon the something else? The aggregate, namely the five aggregates. So that self, we go to the school of philosophy promoted by the Vapashika school of Vapashika and Vapashika Buddhist, and so they believe. They do not believe that the self is like a non-Buddhist philosopher would say, such as like a prominent, pleasant, and clean or pure and independent. They do not. However, they do claim or do advocating the self, they claims the self which is much subtle than the non-Buddhist school. So that is the self.
롱게 다다 킬링이 요 말이다. 셴도니기 킬링이 요 말이다. 이나 따때 멜리멘 다 라. 산지 덕세데 다. 근딱 정도 좀 태소 유더라. 산지 덕세데 내가도 덕지랑 전지 다. 롱자위 다. 저땅 달라 가서 당진이 당니 작이와 덕지랑 전지 다때 좀 태도 당 바레스. 산지 강아 지금 아주 슬랑아 세시랑도와 어때네 당 가르와 롱짠전 특히 요런 저 어떠니가 또 참아 저땅 점태 로딱 받다 그 점태 삼로 땅에 자양으로 저땅 신도 대저고 저땅 당메게 당메세 당메교 때다 dak세랑 코로 랑자와지 pombukanla 마템베 랑자와지 다 나랑 셈나 땡고라 남지 아노미 참에 셈나 nga세데 pombu리슴라 온경게 인스다 때 딱바르 맞다지 근데 잡르시 셰고 말다 얘는 나랑 셈나 나랑 nga세지 랑자와지 링리스나 온경게 오지 요 삼든 가 숨나 진다오라 땅을 망가지기요. 때 안에 코로나산이 좀 땅에서 어떤 데서 오니 만두지 따때 공부가 템be 시간만 벤데 시즌이 때인데 그 셈비 딱 이거네 다 빠잠지래 이제 따때 창조 된중 고도 요것이나 때라 때닌 종화 담지 가지 마토네 공간라 마템베랑 자와 좀 만두 나랑 셈이나 담데 랑자원 증거로 때 매바다 좀 뭐라 참아 지금 송을 킬링이 그렇지.
जी तेरे शिक्षक मार्ग नदी वाणी रांझा तो पे जीवित चिता तो खेलने वाला खेलने वाला रांझा तो पे जो बोल चुके तेरे को
근이 킬링가 말 점티 로딱비 당 킬링을 직당 시작마 가시 지그다 공부는 그로 간속 곳에 때 레시 약당스 시고를 따때 요라 망부르케 시험거지라 나랑도 산지기다 지고라 산지기다 낭은 지금 나세 리스나 공지는 떠오지 요 삼아지고라 어때 전에 때 만두지네 그런도 맨 쳤다 나 전에 메르는 메르가 때닌 종아 점지 약가요 그 수참막 단 놈들 오셨다 근데 샘점이 코트마데스 신에
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's make this conversation a bit simple. So when you said when we talk about the Vapashika and the Sutrantika philosophical view, and they do reject the self-sufficient and Unitarian self, which is clear. And of course, they will deny the self claimed by the non-Buddhist school of thought. So now here again, we have these two versions of self. One is imputed self, or imputational, and which is a kind of superimposed or projected, mentally projected phenomena, and that is highly is belong to the categorization of the negation. This need to be rejected. The second version of self, as we talked about earlier, is the index self. So in itself, and in the sense that it is valid and legitimate. However, prior to the clear understanding of this natural self or in itself, we must to know that you would the way it depends upon how you perceiving this innate self or the self occurred to you is very natural. If the self which occurred to you in a very normal, natural way, but the way it appeared to you is acting or functioning like a king who sort of managing or commanding the rest of his minister or anyone other than himself, right? In that royal court or in the kingdom. If you see your sense of this natural self, or inner self, occurred in such a way, acting like a king, independent, powerful, and it does not need to obey or depend upon and sort of a super the superior to anything else. If you believe that is the self, then you got it wrong, okay? Because that is not the case. That is not who you are, or what you are, or how you existed. Right? You are very critical analysis of this type of innate self, right? Should lead you to the point to say to see that yourself, even though it's not a permanent, self-sufficient, clean and independent, but it does not exist like something that's a separate entity, autonomous entity other than you are on the components of your own the basis of your individuality. That is the five aggregates, right? So yourself, indeed, is the designated. Yourself is a designated entity. Right? It is a designated entity because it was depend upon or established after in those five aggregates. Right? So therefore, we have to see this and the divisions between how we pursuing the two separate ideas of the self.
Oh yeah, that is lots. That teacher 상도 그 teacher 좋아지는 teacher 어서 말이나 좋아지는 요나 저는 그나 이기트니 뭐 당선나 때니 알라 당는 이 티하나 때스타니 심직지니 근데 마도양 도시작된 때문에 그래 지금 말로는 리로 자신부터 어떠시 근데 직동전에다 소som 당는 하랑도 직동디나 셰 등하세 등하랑도 소소랑 그 당는 하세 간다지 자나 요거 요르지 하세 때니 맞다 초스니 소니 지 맞아 좀 맹일인지 또 알아서다 니망데 니 지비조도 이는 정기지는 대치파 레거모도 니또 나땅 기시간이 지인스그로 나 잡이스네 기시간가다 초지 나시게 말어 어때지나 대체 아니 나세데 로 총총즈 샤이지레 강고지레 달마지 단당 안들에 가상 나들 어떤데 근데 딱잖아 딱 딱돈 자 점즈마 동 나랑 선바스 메바 근데 하고로 언니다 되는 나한테 자네 매통아 말다 매 나지 용구요 때 개완이 정도 마시 받던 나지 단당아 미 기월에 장니 린델라테네 땅페 타좀 징아지 요르테 미인세 거르 미 임싱 가르땅 거잖아 미기 남수 땅 리땅 남시트 베지 땅 릴라 템베니 미기 샤와시게 저거 미세 나타니 슈퍼닌데 남시 연지가 참주지 소나 네때 강서 연지 차는 거르 어때자다 데라 템베니 따나다 참주주도 가르잖아 남시기 긴텔라테네 땅페 타좀 긴텔라테네 거다 남시기 긴땅 아주 토마메 번에 용에 타마버튼 로고를 이나 까치까치 지급이 긴드 로고를 긴드 대삼로 당하이나 아니 대스지 샘난 코르지즈 요르시 당봉 나자나 나세의 결혼도 지그리 타다리 아니 지 소소 남지 몽드 당하니 직바르 직바 말이 나당 제니를 잡을 가른도 어떻지 아니 젠정 잡을 뜨기 심지기 지라더니 경우도 샘난 됐지 오늘 동네 지금 문제가 세야지 때니 종화 점들이 했어 초라하게 용기 요르시다.
Okay. I guess we are about running out of time, so maybe today we should not take the questions. Instead, I would like to request all of you, if you have any form of questions or need any clarifications, and please do send email to Stacy, and let Stacy inform me ahead of time, so then I can get myself to be prepared. Indeed, I do have to prepare myself and in this kind of conversation, because the conversation itself, as we know, it's a profound and it's a complicated one. So therefore, I must make preparation and to avoid the incorrect to avoid an incorrect or wrong and wrong interpretations. So yes, send it your question email your question to Stacy and then let Stacy inform me in advance. So lastly, I'd like to ask you all to make it this the task of understanding the self a bit simple or in a very simple term. That is to see and examine yourself how you see and feel, understanding and your own self, okay? And see whether you and yours, what's the difference between you and yours, right? So for example,
나도 초스. yours.
I'm saying
미세 거래. 레지다가 나도 초스했다.
Yeah, so here see, and I call myself Geshe Gunga, right? I would claim I would not claim you, myself, right? But although I call myself I, Geshe Gunga, but it is not really I, Geshe Gunga, from your point of view, because from your point of view is you, Geshe Gunga. So see, the I is immediately become something kind of a self claimed. It's not really actually is taking place in findable within me or as the way I claimed, right? So therefore, you see, you have to do this kind of exam and just find out what difference between you and other, how you can truly can draw the a clear, accurate, mistake-free boundary between you and other. Right? See whether you can do it. According to our discussions based on the textbook, we know that the self prior to our critical analysis, right? And it seems as a valid. It's under as objectively findable and sort of exist and by its own. But we know that as soon as we engage in our critical analysis, and all we can find, right, is something that which is the production or the self actually is the production of or being produced based upon the other thing else, something else, right? So, and having said that, Buddhists never ever claimed that there's no in any case, right? There's no self. That's what that is not a Buddhist position. Even though the self or the true existent self or inherent existent self, it does not exist. But that doesn't mean the general, the conventional self that does not exist neither. No. Okay. So self does not truly inherently exist, but doesn't mean that none exists or nothing is. We not suggest nothingness or some kind of nihilistic view. And we call ourselves, generally speaking, point our bodies, say, oh, I am a person, I'm a human being, right? So what is a human being? Why you call you a human being? You are a person, you are a human being. That is because you see our experience and tells us the form of body we possessing or we endured with, and that is we can clearly define and or point out it is a separate entity, right, among all the phenomena. Right? So therefore, we can correctly, right, claim that I'm a human being and I'm a person. But just in this very sort of a normal correct sort of a statement about yourself as being a person, but you have to be very careful and make sure that that self is not an inherent one. It's not a permanent one. Right? That self is depend upon something else, meaning that your five aggregates is the production or is the establishment of the process of the designation. So therefore, it is there. However, it keeps changing from a moment to moment. Right? So then, in this moment of you say, I'm a human being, I'm a person, but it's not the second moment of the same identical with the next moment of you, and they make the same claim. It's keeping changing that way until reach the last point of the existence of this physical and body, right? Then you, as a person, so the consciousness, the personal consciousness, and it continues, right? That shows that even though physical body is dead, right, it reached its end, but the continuation or the continuity of the consciousness is continued, it's keep going. But the continuation or continuity of the consciousness again is not it's also subject of the momentary, the changing from a moment to a moment. It's not being permanent or self-sufficient or inherently exists the entity. So we need to ask a deep, profound questions like this. Okay? So we are designating ourselves, our existence is based upon the continuity of our consciousness. Right? But then the question is, are we absolute one, or are we absolute separate separate entity? So we needed to see if we say I or I am a person, then you have to ask, are you a single solo independent entity, individuality, or you are a separate multiple sort of independent entity or this self, right? So we need to ask this question. And then we have to see that how we like we talked about before. We needed to see how we can clearly really draw the correct and mistaken-free line between the we as a person and others as an independent entity out there. And we have to see whether this or is true, is the case.
야, 나도 좋고.
That's it, prayers.
Thank you, Geshe-la, Tenzin, and Tempa. If you would like to make a donation for this teaching, it would be greatly appreciated for those of you online. And you can do that by calling the temple, which is 812-336-6807, or by emailing the temple, which is tmbcc.kcl@gmail.com. For those of you here in the temple, if you would like to make a donation, I'll pass around the begging bowl. And you can put a donation in here. And if you're unable to do that, you may just simply say a prayer into the bowl, and that is greatly appreciated. There will not be a second teaching today. All right, thank you.
Closing prayer on page number 80.
La do shang zhou lam jie ren le zhang ta do nam jie ye la ba de xiang do wei zai ba rang do zhong zhi ji nam san de be tong jian du ji ga jian zhe ji me dang me cai rong gong du nga ba ye na da lam dang zhe wei ma zhi kan zhe de bo zu lai zhi zhi yan zhe zhen zhe la zong ba de ye du de nan jie da du zhu jie da xi jiang zong chu cha chu ro jie ba de za wei la ma ren bo jie da jie nian bo pa me den xiu la a den xian bo gu ne jie song de gu song du jie mo zhu zang du su chang chu sem chu ren bo ma jie pa na jie zhu ro jie jie wo yang ba me bar yang gong ne gong du bei wer qiu gang re la wei guo wei xin gang de ben dang de wa ma le jiong wei ne jie re zhen wang de zhen jia zuo ye xiao bei sen zhe pa duo zhen zhi ro ji jiang ba ba wo jie da ra qian ba dang gong du sang bo de da gong jie jie su da lu jian ye wang de da tam jie ra du ngong de song xiang bei miao wa tam jie jie mo wa gang la qiu du ma ba de da yin yi wei za wa de gong jiang song bo chu jie rang du mo wer ji pen de zhong ne den bo dar xiang jie den zhen tam jie bo gang za le jian gong la de jie zhong wei ne san jie den ba da du jie zhi jie cai ra gong du nia wa zong ga dan zhou zhen nian wo zu za bei du ya wei ma bei long za de ni zang yang du bar ma zhi ji